Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the DVC Show. Coming up, we are going to talk about Riviera and some of the things we're seeing regarding that resort coming up next. The DVC Show is brought to you by DVCstore.com. For more than 25 years, the DVC Store has been welcoming people home to the Disney Vacation Club with incredible prices on DVC contracts and knowledgeable associates who can answer all your DVC questions. Visit them at DVCstore.com or call 1-800-550-6493. And by the DVC forums on disboards.com. If you have questions or comments about DVC, our discussion forums are a great place to get information and join with other like-minded fans. Head over to disboards.com and join in the conversation. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Coming to you from the Bob Varley Studio in Orlando, Florida. I'm your host, Pete Werner. Joined at the table this week by Sean Falk.
Hi.
Jackie Gailey.
Hi.
From the DVC Store, Ms. Jamie Carr.
Hey, everybody.
Joining us via Skype, Mr. Pete Scheidley.
Hi there.
And back in the production nook, working the pole, Fiasco.
Welcome home.
See, he's like Cher. He just has one name now. Just Fiasco.
It's my good stage name.
There it is.
Yeah.
All right, folks, welcome to the show. Hope your week is off to a good start. Before we get into things, just want to remind people of a couple things. First, if you want, you can subscribe to this show on iTunes. It now has its own iTunes feed. We'll make sure there is a link in the show notes page if you just want to hear the audio version of this to take with you. Of course, you can continue watching us on YouTube as well. Also, just want to put out a plug for DVCfan.com. That is my DVC blog, and I'm really so happy with how that website is doing. It's really been awesome.
Yeah,
and of course, the DVC Fan Facebook page over on Facebook. So make sure we get those plugs in. And speaking of DVC Fan, today's show is actually inspired by a blog that I put up just recently. If I can get it to come up, it does not want to click. About Riviera. Now we've done a show on Riviera before. For those who are new to this process, let me just give you a little background. Riviera is the newest Disney Vacation Club resort, set to open December 16th, I believe, of this year. It is a standalone property, meaning it's not what is often referred to as mixed use, where there is a hotel side and a DVC side. This is one of very few standalone DVC properties, and people are understandably excited. It's a new resort at Walt Disney World, right? So people are understandably excited. However, DVC did something earlier this year. In January, they announced that any contracts purchased at DVC or at Riviera and then resold on the resale market would not have access to the other DVC resorts. In other words, someone buying Riviera via resale would only be able to use those points at Riviera and not any of the other 14 DVC resorts. They also, cut back on a lot of perks, DVC perks for resale buyers. This made people understandably very upset. And one of the discussions that has been on everyone's mind with Riviera was what kind of impact would these restrictions have on sales? One of the great selling points for DVC has always been, if I decide to sell this at some point, it's going to retain or increase its value. Talk to anybody who bought Old Key West in 1999 at $65 a point and is now getting $100 a point for that. Talk to anybody who bought even Saratoga Springs when it first launched and what they're selling for now. So these things do either retain their value or gain value. But we didn't know. We didn't know. We speculated, and look, it's still speculation, but one contract went on the market. one Riviera contract went on the market recently. It listed at $133 a point. Now, please keep in mind that current value, if you want to buy in Riviera direct, $188 a point. From what I understand, and you can correct me on this, Jamie, if I'm wrong, but from what I understand, normally, in the rare occasion that a contract comes on the market for a resort that has not yet opened, maybe it's going to go for $10 or $20 less a point.
Absolutely correct, and maybe even 5 to 10.
Right,
know?
but
20. Yeah, average I would say 10 to 20. So absolutely right.
So you would have expected this to come on the market at about 170, 165, somewhere in that range, maybe. So just coming on the market at 133 immediately said, we don't think this is going to do well.
I was shocked when I read that.
And it sold for $100 a point. That poor member, and obviously somebody bought this, and something must have happened. I mean, I don't know what the situation is, but something unfortunate must have happened that forced them to have to sell. They took a bath. $88 a point loss on the sale of that contract. So now again, that's one contract. And I say this in the blog that I wrote. Until that resort opens and people are actually able to be inside of it and see it and experience it, we really don't know what the value of these are going to be. But what prompted me to write this blog was a friend of mine texted me and said that his DVC guide had called him. They were trying to get him to buy Riviera, and he had told them, I'm not a fan of the resale restrictions. And his guide called him and told him that we're offering an incentive on fixed weeks.
Wow.
Right, exactly. Wow. Now, for those who don't know, DVC will do a fixed week contract, meaning that you're buying the points for a particular week that you know you're going to want to travel. And these are coveted. People love these fixed week contracts because, first of all, you don't have to worry about, making sure you're ready at 11 months to get your week. It's automatically there for you. And if you decide you don't want to use it that particular week, you can cancel that reservation and have all those points back to use the way you would use points anyway. And normally, these go at a premium, not a discount. So the fact that they are putting these fixed week contracts out there with an offer, with an incentive, and I didn't get the specifics on what the incentive was, but I believe it was the current incentive being offered right now on regular point purchases. I put a post on our DVC fan Facebook group and said, has anyone ever seen this before? Because I'm kind of new to this. And everybody said the same thing. Oh no, they've never done an incentive on a fixed week. So, Pete, let me go to you. You're a more seasoned DVC member than I am. What does that say to you?
Yeah, I got to say that says to me that there's some concern. Now, when I think of Riviera and the restriction, as a buyer, I would lean towards a fixed week for that resort because I would think you would retain your value more so on the resale market.
That's a good point.
Week. Because if you do that, the problem's going to be, of course, if you buy points at this resort and you can't get the date you want, you don't have the option to go to Old Key West or Saratoga Springs or something like that. If Riviera fills up, you're out of luck. So I would think that would be a very motivating purchase for resale. So that may be why Disney is doing that, is they're finding more people are saying, gee, I'd like to buy here, but I'd like to buy a fixed week, but they want the incentives, and maybe that's Disney's hoping that they're going to boost the sales. Because I agree, it's an indication that it's maybe not going as well as they would hope.
Well, I mean, go ahead, John.
And see, I'm definitely not as seasoned for DVC and I'm newer to it, but knowing just what I've learned and read, my initial reaction is that I would absolutely not want a fixed week at this resort. This is the last thing I would want here because, I mean, we've seen them come up for things like Copper Creek and a couple places that are smaller and are going to have less room options. I mean, when it's a full, like Riviera is a full DVC resort, so same as like Saratoga Springs, Old Key West, even Kidani Village has such a large number of rooms. Aulani has a huge number of rooms. And so when you have that much availability, they don't really fill up as much. I don't think, I mean, after the initial hype of like, I must try Riviera, I don't think you'd need a fixed week. I don't think it's worth paying a premium to get a fixed week when availability probably won't be that hard to get. Well, when you think Saratoga Springs, Old Key West.
The one exception I would say to that, Sean, is realizing that only 25% of the resort is you have standard and preferred, right? And only 25% is going to be standard. I think you're going to find that in the fall time frame when DVC is so popular, I think you will find getting standard rooms is very difficult. And since the point price is pretty high anyways for Riviera, I think it could make a lot of sense if you wanted a standard studio or maybe even a standard one bedroom, and you knew you'd normally travel at the same time every week or every year. I mean, as Pete mentioned, you can then convert that to regular points and use them whenever you want, but at least you know you have that. So if you know you want to go the first week of December, which is a popular week, you want a standard room, it might make a lot of sense to purchase that at Riviera, and then that's going to have some value on the resale side as well, because people will say, hey, I don't have to fight for, with all the other owners for this week. I know I got it.
Well, that's the other thing that I'm hearing a lot about. These resale restrictions are not going to stop people from listing these for resale like they do other, when you have to sell, you have to sell, right?
Because most sales come out of a need to sell. So if someone needs to sell, they need to sell.
They need to sell, and I don't think that's going to be any different because of these restrictions. The problem is that when people buy at resale, they can only use them at Riviera, which is going to make availability at that resort even more difficult because those people have to use their points at Riviera. They can't use them anywhere else. Now, this also, now some of the reports that I've seen suggest that sales at Riviera are in line with or even slightly ahead of some of the more recent DVC properties, Copper Creek, Grand Floridian, things like that. Yet some of the conversations I've had off the record with people inside DVC have suggested to me otherwise, that they are concerned about these, about the pace of sales, that they're not panicking yet because they believe that once they open this resort and people see it, a lot of those hesitations are going to go away. And I think there may be an argument to be made there. I've taken the tour. I've seen the rooms. They're beautiful. I'm very attracted to the theme of the resort, the whole Riviera theme. I think it looks absolutely gorgeous. I think I'm going to love it. But I've stopped short of buying points there because of those resale restrictions.
Yeah. But let's say even then, like let's say you want to buy direct, and if you're saying on the other end, there's going to be all these people flooding into the resale of it and having to use their points at Riviera. If I go buy direct for 188 points up to 200 and something as it increases, then I'm not going to be able to find availability at my... I mean, I can with my 11-month window, that kind of thing. But if there's these resales happening and they can't use them anywhere else, people will just go ahead and book at 11 months rather than waiting for 7. Because there's other places, if I have Saratoga Springs, I might wait till the 7-month mark and then attempt to get into Polynesian or attempt to get in other places. But now if I have a resale of Riviera, I'm just going to go ahead and do my 11 months and be done with it. Right. So I think that's going to create even more competition for people who buy direct to be able to get those standard rooms that Pete was talking about that are like 25%.
Now, just in the interest of being responsible here, this is all speculation. We really can't say with any surety at this point, with only one resale having shown up on the market, what's going to happen with that. Is it a bellwether? Absolutely. But is this case closed on what the value is going to be? No. We're not going to know that until we'll see what kind of show we're recording about Riviera this time next year. And whether or not, you know, that's coming to pass. Now, let me ask you, Jamie, because I've always been curious about this. How long after a new resort opens do you really start seeing resale people putting those contracts up for sale?
So consistent inventory, meaning, you know, more than one or two here or there, is typically 18 to 24 months.
Okay. Okay. Because even still, we don't see a ton of Copper Creek. They do come up. But
And more so now. So, you know, we got the first one within so many months, and then we'd go a few months and we'd get one. And now you're actually seeing, you know, 4, 5, 6 active listings. So we're now talking once you reach about 12 months, you'll see a few. And then to really get consistent, it's 18 to 24.
that 18 to 24 months. So we got a little while.
I'm shocked that Disney didn't buy that one back, that Riviera one.
Oh, right, yeah. That was weird.
They don't
I
normally buy
cannot
back when they're still
believe it.
actively selling. Same thing at Aulani. Aulani's actively selling. They're not buying back any of those Aulani contracts. That's why you got stories of people out there grabbing Aulani for $70 a point.
Yeah.
Because you had a really motivated seller that needed to dump it, and you know, maybe it was a strip contract and it was a lot of points or something like that. I've heard stories of people getting those Aulani ones. So Aulani's a really safe bet.
Aulani definitely, but
And
I'm
it's also
I'm
a
so
great
shocked.
resort. I mean,
It is. You got to get
sure.
there, but yeah, it's
Right,
that's the problem. But
Yeah.
now, like, I guess I know for me, the even the 133 points is something that, I mean, I saw the listing come up whenever it came up, but even with the restrictions, I would buy that if it was 133 points. Is that something, you know, y'all would buy?
$133.
$33, yeah.
Right, $133 a point is, even with the restrictions. Is that a more fair price? Would y'all buy into that?
no, because
I would be very hesitant
Yeah.
to buy at Riviera at any price because, again, you're locked in there. You don't, and you don't know what it's really going to be like until the resort opens and there's actual members filling it up. You know, right now they don't declare the whole resort, but they're going to be a bunch of rooms that are going to be available for booking. So right now it looks like there's lots of availability, but I think that you're going to see, you know, what the demand is going to be. Really, as Jamie said, it's got to be open for a while. And so is 133 a good price? It might be a good price for it, but I can go to Saratoga Springs and I can still stay at Boardwalk, and I can stay at the Poly, and I can stay at the Grand Floridian. I go to Riviera, I can only stay at the Riviera. So
right.
I don't know. There is, and I do want to talk about it. There is a poll on the boards on the DVC site where someone posted asking about what people would pay for Riviera, and they got looks like about 200 votes, and of those 200 votes, over 100 people voted. 51% of the people voted under $90 would be what they'd be willing to pay for Riviera Resale. Another 21% were at $100, and there was a few voters did vote higher, 130, 140, but really 90% voted $120 or lower.
But again, you know, it's important to note that this is all, you know, before any of us have stepped foot inside that resort. And I think
Right.
it's important in the interest of fairness. It is important, and just my history, you know, 22 years covering Disney and the parks and the resorts. You know, I've seen it happen so many times. On announcement and pre-opening, people, oh, I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. Pandora, great example. Okay, World of Avatar, great example. Oh, I have no interest, I don't care about it. In the meantime, there were 4-hour lines to get in. So I've seen this happen repeatedly over the years. And I have a suspicion that it will happen with this. That people will walk into Riviera and go, "Oh my God!" You know, DVC is floating the term. It's the Grand Floridian of Epcot, and hopefully with better service. But and I don't, maybe that's true. If it does turn out to be the Grand Floridian of Epcot, if this turns out to be a 5-star resort with gorgeous rooms and gorgeous amenities and incredible dining and access to the Skyliner, and if they hit their mark on each of those points, then yes, you will start to see sales when people can actually see and touch. You're going to see sales improve, and I think that will have an impact on the resale price.
Right, and even a poll like that says 90% of the people wouldn't pay more than $110. That doesn't matter. If 10% of the people are willing to pay $130, $140, that might be the selling point, because those people will buy at $130, $140.
Right.
I can't believe it'll retain a price as high as the Poly or the Grand Floridian, because I do think that resale restriction is going to affect the price in some way. How much, I think we just don't know yet.
It is going to have to become the resort of Walt Disney World.
Which I don't know that it can, just because, one of the things, not only is like the Polynesian and, Bay Lake Tower and Grand Floridian great, they're also on the monorail, and they're also right next to Magic Kingdom, and you can see, and that's like the coveted place people go. I get people all the time that are like, we want to spend like 3 days at Disney World and a day at Epcot. Like, they kind of say that stuff, and they think Magic Kingdom is Disney World. That's what they intend.
Right,
so.
and I think if you're talking about the market of families in particular, then yes, those Magic Kingdom area resorts are more coveted. But when you're talking about adults, couples, older couples, Epcot is the draw. Look at how popular Beach Club and Boardwalk are. Why? Because of their proximity to Epcot. This resort will be, depending on, based on what I see, I think this resort will end up being even more deluxe than either of those two. And you have the Skyliner that will take you basically door to door to Epcot. So those could be, and I'm playing devil's advocate with this, just because I want to be fair to the property, but I also want to be fair to those people watching and listening that have bought in at Riviera. That if I'm not going to sit here and just dump on it when I haven't seen it. I want to be honest about what I think, and I think that resale is going to be a problem. But maybe Riviera owners are going to buy for life. Maybe they're just going to be like, no, you know what? I'm never selling this. I love this place. So we have.
So what?
Go ahead, Pete.
One more comment. So what I've seen on the board, I think, is kind of what you're saying. People are buying in a Riviera for two reasons. One, they don't think they're going to need to sell in the future, so they're not worried about resale. A lot of people don't care about that. Secondly, they want an Epcot resort, and they look at Beach Club and Boardwalk, and they see the 2042 end date,
right?
And they don't want to buy there because they know that value is going to go down in the next few years. So they want a longer term, and they want a nice resort, and that's why they're buying a Riviera, and they don't worry about the resale. So if you're not worried about the resale, I think it's a great resort. You know?
And I think based on the pictures and everything, I think it's going to be a beautiful resort, and I think it's great. And for people who did buy it, you were talking before about before Pandora opened, I remember that hype of why are they building this essentially, which I love the Pandora area. I still didn't need it necessarily. I love it. I just didn't know. I don't think anyone was begging for Avatar area, but but still, to me, that's the equivalent of, at least that's just in Animal Kingdom. And if you don't like the area, or if it had been a huge failure, you still can go to other things. So it's the equivalent of if Disney said, we've built Avatar, or even now, oh, we've built Star Wars, and we're selling this ticket where you can only go into that area, and that's the only part of the park that you're allowed into. That's what Riviera feels like to me. So you're putting a bigger risk on what is it I'm doing, because my entire trip depends on now Disney selling me $100 ticket so I can either do Star Wars or all of Hollywood Studios. And that's how it feels. But I will say that if you did buy direct and, you know, you're prepared and ready, I could see if you already owned resale buying these as my direct points, because once you buy direct, you still can use them at other places, and you'd get those member benefits if you just want to buy direct and get the minimum without having to do a wait list. So
now, in wrapping up, real quick, we can go around the table. Yes or no? Do you think Disney Vacation Club is going to walk back these resale restrictions? Jamie?
Yes.
Sean?
I don't know. I'll say not unless they're just have a gun to their head. So they'd be desperate.
I think they will, but I think it's going to be a while.
Fiasco?
I will say yes. I think they're going to. I also have one more thing I want to say, but I'll put it in after Pete gives his answer.
So I think they won't, with what you said, I don't think they will until it's open for a while. And if sales continue to be soft, and if they hear, then I think there's a good chance that, yes, they'll walk back on it.
I agree. I think they're going to end up. They have too much of them. Too large a portion of the membership is upset about these resale restrictions, and I think they are going to have to walk some of it back, because it's now, I think, created this environment. It's almost a toxicity in certain regions of the community around these restrictions, and I think that they have thrived based on members' goodwill, and I think this has done a huge bit of damage to that goodwill.
That's a really important statement. And I think that there is
Of course it is. I said it.
It's yes. And because the goodwill, it's a thing. It's a big deal.
It is ultimately their stock and trade.
Yes.
Is goodwill with the membership.
Yep.
And they have basically created a class system with these restrictions.
Yeah.
And you have a portion of the membership, a large portion to be sure, that are resale owners, even if they're not affected, even if they bought before these restrictions went into place.
Well, I have to tell you, I don't want to interrupt your train of thought. Oh, wait.
Even if they did buy before these restrictions went into place, they view themselves as resale owners.
Yeah. And
I think some people take it personally that, now you have a white card and a blue card. And
that's tough.
You've created a class system, and by doing so, you fostered some bad will.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, because when we bought resale, but I almost feel, I have a weird feeling, because I feel like it's not okay that I can
You're less of a member.
Well, no, I feel like I can go and make a reservation at Riviera using my points.
Well, because you bought it before the restrictions.
I did, and I feel that doesn't make me feel good, though, because I feel like it's not fair that I can, but somebody else can't, and it makes me feel uncomfortable that they spent just as much, if not more, on what they purchased than what I did, and I can do something that they're not allowed to. It makes me feel like when you get a fast pass and 5 minutes before and you walk by all the people, like, I get that that's okay, but you know what I'm saying? It just makes me a little uneasy.
So yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying. Very interesting to see how this goes. Every few months we seem to get a little more information that's suggesting what direction this is headed in. But again, we're not going to really know until it opens, which is this December. I'm really excited about seeing it.
Me too.
But that is going to do it for this week's episode of the DVC show. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you again next week. Have a great week.